What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a great day so far. Getting into this episode, man, of Days of Our Lives. This was a pretty good episode. This was interesting. Um, Damn, I feel bad for a lot of people in this episode, man. It was like old wounds were reopened, and everything was just thrown into chaos. Thanks to Ben Weston, everything was just thrown into complete chaos. The ceremony didn't finish. Um, Chad and Abigail, in spite of everything, were just sitting in the church, just talking, and they still had smiles on their face. You know what I'm saying? Even though Ben ruined the double wedding and stuff like that, they didn't let it ruin their day. Yeah, they didn't get married. The couples didn't get to go through the ceremony and stuff like that. But I'm sure they'll finish at a later date. You know, Abby was just telling, Chad about how when she was a kid and stuff, because he was wondering how she was able to throw a right hook like that and punch, Ben in the face. She said Will actually taught her that when they were kids. A bully was messing with her, and, Will just taught her how to, punch and defend herself. Chad never knew that, And that's the beauty about being with somebody. That's the beauty about marriage and having a companion, a partner, because you learn something new about that person every day. Like, it's stuff, 20 years, you could be married to somebody 20 years and they tell you something from their childhood you never knew. And you've been married to this person for 20 years and you didn't know these things. Like, you learn something new every day of your life with that person, like stuff that you didn't know about their childhood, because a lot of people have such interesting past, you know what I mean? So it's a lot to really go over. You don't just tell people everything about you on the first date. So it's always good that you learn new things about people. Um, I love the scene with Andre and Kate. Loved it. Andre and Kate, they complement each other because they're both complex people. Andre is not 100% evil. I mean, there was a time where he was, but ever since he came back, it's like he's not 100% evil. It's more like 60, 70%. Um, but he was there for Kate, which is good. Kate wanted to call Lucas and tell Lucas about Will possibly being alive. But I'm glad Andre talked her out of it, because you know what? It's a good thing she didn't call him, because you don't have all the facts. You know what I mean? You don't know the information. You don't know if Ben is telling the truth, if he's lying. You don't know the details of it yet. So I would hold off, because you definitely don't want to get Lucas's hopes up. And then, if the information is wrong, he can start drinking again. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want that to happen. Um, But yeah, it was like I love that scene between them. They complement each other so well. She thought Ben Weston, she thought Clyde had something to do with Ben escaping the facility. So she had to call Hope and stuff, and Hope told her, she's checking on it. She's just waiting for information to find out about Clyde and, him being in prison, to see if he's still in prison. Um, so I definitely love that scene with them. And when they almost kissed and stuff, Andre and Kate, I love it. I like their marriage, even though their marriage is for business purposes. I mean, think about it. Their marriage started out for business. I mean, think about it. Stefano had to blackmail Kate to marry him. So, their marriage kind of started out with blackmail and business, but it turned into love. And I think the same thing can happen with Andre and Kate. It could turn into love. And it looked like she's starting to get there, but she just don't want to let her guard down too much with Andre. I wouldn't. I mean, Andre, he's loyal to an extent, but he will stab you in the back. Like, she might want to keep her eye on Andre. I wouldn't trust him completely. And Andre would be smart not to trust Kate completely either, because she's known for backstabbing a motherfucker too. She known for it. So anyway, you know, John and Marlena, I love their relationship probably the most on this show. I just like them together. I felt bad for Marlena. She's just hoping that Will is, you know, alive. She just wished that he was, and a big part of her was hoping that what Ben was saying was true, but she didn't want to fully get her hopes up either. And, as much as she was going on and on about Will, she kind of felt bad for talking so much about Will, because, Paul is John's son and he's marrying Sonny. So, she thought John might feel a certain way about that. But John assured her that he doesn't. Will is a part of his family too. Will has been his step grandson for a long time, off and on for years. So, he's just as much a part of John's family as anybody. So, John loves him as just as much as Marlena. So he's not bothered the fact that she's talking about Will and hoping he's alive, because you got to think about it. If Will is alive, that's going to have consequences for Paul and Sonny and their relationship moving forward. But I'm glad that John, he's neutral. He doesn't feel any certain way about it, and I like that. Um, I I feel like personally, as far as this new commissioner is concerned, I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I'm iffy about Hope and Rafe. Like, I'm iffy about Hope being the new commissioner because it's just a lot of corruption with them. You know what I mean? Like, and it was like that with Roman too. Um, they protect their friends, they protect their family. And my whole thing about Hope was she murdered Stefano in cold blood. Now, don't get me wrong. Stefano did a lot to her family over the years. He did a lot to a lot of people in Salem over the years. But she had no right as an officer of the law to take the law into her own hands and kill an unarmed man in a wheelchair. He was no threat to her. But I feel like, I get her reasons behind it because pretty much everybody in Salem wanted Stefano dead. Everybody. And I get her reasons. But at the end of the day, you had no right to kill somebody and take their life. You had no right to do that. And Rafe helped her cover it up. Rafe has had his hands in some dirt for years since he's been on the force. Like, it's not just Hope that's corrupted a little bit, it's Rafe too. My whole thing is, it just seems like a lot of people in the Salem PD are just corrupt cops. And if she's going to be a commissioner, it's time for her to be legit. You know what I mean? If not, you're no different than Reigns when Reigns was commissioner. And when Reigns first came on the show as lieutenant, he hated the Bradys and stuff like that because of their corruptness. And it turned out when he became commissioner, he was corrupt, for money. And if they do anything corrupt, it's like you're no better than Reigns. They condemned Reigns for being a corrupt cop and stuff, but you guys have done some shady stuff too. But, at the end of the day, if Hope is going to be commissioner, I'm actually kind of glad she is because I would take her over Rafe. For me, I just don't like Rafe. I never really did. Ever since he came on the show in 2008, I never liked his character. It's something about it. I just never liked Rafe. He just seems overly smug. Even when he was going up against EJ for years, he just always seemed smug and self righteous. Um, and you could tell he's gonna have an issue with Hope being commissioner because they're getting married and it's gonna cause a problem because you could see it in his face. He tried to make it seem like he was down and out because of what happened to Paige. And I believe, he is. He's still hurting because Paige died and stuff, and that was his half sister. But at the end of the day, he also has an issue with Hope being commissioner. But I feel like if Hope is commissioner, I'm happy that she is because she's been on the force longer. She's been on the force longer than Rafe, so it makes sense that Abe picked her. Why would you pick Rafe over her when she has more experience? She's been on the force longer, so it makes sense. You know, um, it's called seniority, and she definitely has seniority over Rafe. Um, so I'm ready to see how this plays out because I already know this is gonna be intense. Rafe is definitely gonna have an issue with this going forward. He's gonna have a problem with it. I cannot believe Ben. He sat there and he was just taunting Sonny. Because at first, like I said, Kate thought that Clyde had something to do with it, but Hope called Kate and told her that Clyde is still in prison. He's tucked away, so he's not going nowhere. So Ben is just sitting there toying with Sonny the entire time, talking about he want a lawyer because since Will is supposedly alive, he wants that murder charge dropped. Um, Robert Scott Wilson plays crazy very well. Like the way he taunted Will, the way he taunted Paul. I mean, the way he taunted Sonny, the way he taunted Paul, the way he taunted JJ. He played his part perfectly. Like he played it very well, and I was impressed. Um, because it was like, yo, he just has no chill button. And Paul, I feel like with Paul, I felt bad for Paul because even during yesterday's episode, when when Sonny was talking about his love for Will and stuff, you could see the look in Paul's face. Like he just felt sad. He looked sad. And it was because you know how awkward it is to stand there and listen to your fiance talk about their deceased spouse, you know, the love of their life, and it just makes you feel like you're never going to compare, you know, you can't compete with that, you know, even though they feel Will is dead, but it's like he's never going to compare to Will. He's never going to compete. You know what I mean? It's like you're never going to have that space in Sonny's heart the way Will always have that space, dead or alive. It's like Will's always gonna have that space, and it makes you feel a certain way. You could tell it was really bothering Paul. He's trying to be understanding, but at the end of the day, it's bothering him. And I can't say I blame him. You know what I mean? Like it was awkward, you know, to just sit there and listen to all of that. It was like wow. But I feel like a part of Paul, you know, wishes that Will was dead because you could tell like when Ben was trying to, you know, talk to Sonny and stuff like that, Paul was eager to tell tell Sonny don't talk to him. You know, he's full of it. Don't talk to him. He's lying. Blah 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 blah. He did. I feel like a part of him knew that if Will came back, it would be a wrap for his relationship. He knew it. He knew his relationship with Sonny would be over like that. He knew it, no questioning. Um, and even when they went to the Angel Square and stuff like that, I mean to the Horton Town Square, um, he wanted to get married and finish the ceremony. That's what Paul wanted to do, but Sonny was like, no. He was like, he a part of him feels like you know Ben is probably telling the truth that Will is alive. He was like, I'm not getting married until I know for sure. He needs to know because he does not know. It's up in the air at this point. And you could tell that really hurt Paul. Like I felt bad for Paul. I really did. I felt bad for him. But you could see like this is tearing Sonny up. Sonny has to know because in the back of his mind, he feels like if he ignores this, it's always gonna haunt him. Like what if he's telling the truth? You know, he might be crazy, but what if his crazy, you know, self is telling the truth? Um, that's when JJ came in the room and you know he pretty much Ben was taunting the hell out of JJ about Paige. And JJ wanted to know. He was like, "Is Paige dead or is Paige alive?" And Ben was like, "Oh, Paige is dead." He said, "Trust me, she is worms." He's like, "She's worm food." Um, so JJ just got irate and took his gun out and pointed it right at Ben's head. I said, "JJ, don't pull that trigger. Don't do it, JJ. Don't you do it. Don't you dare. Don't be no fool." Please, JJ, don't do it. Don't throw your career away. Don't do nothing stupid. Don't do nothing crazy. That's exactly what Ben wants you to do. Ben is toying with them so badly that he's getting such a reaction out of them. That goes to show what great of an actor Robert Scott is. When you're playing a villain, like Stefano used to do the same thing with his people, you know, with his victims and stuff. He used to wind them up so much that he always got a reaction out of them, and that's what he always wanted. And that's what Ben wants. He wants a reaction. But Marlena had a point though. Ben is no Stefano Demira by far. He's not Stefano. But without Stefano in the show, we need somebody like Ben, you know what I mean, to stir it up, you know? And I'm happy that Ben's back because he's definitely getting a reaction from everybody. Um, so anyway, hit that comment button. Let me know what you thought about this episode. And I'll see you all later. Have a good day.